So we were doing the biotic interaction. Quick revision. क्या है biotic interaction? Interaction between the members of different species या same population से different population क्या? Species general between the members of the different species. तीन टाइप्स के हैं जो हमने तीसरा टाइप नहीं पढ़ा वो न्यूट्रल क्योंकि वहाँ से क्वेश्चन नहीं आते. But there you have to remember there is a neutral interaction also theoretically. वैसे in reality there are positive, there are negative interaction. Positive, both of them are benefited. So tell me what are the examples of positive interaction? Mutualism, commensalism या amensalism? Commensalism and symbiosis. साथ में नहीं अलग है. Symbiosis is extreme form of mutualism. So and what are the negative interactions? Amensalism, predation, competition and parasitism. अब mosquito is not considered as a parasite for humans. क्यों? Mosquito, is it a parasite? No, mosquito is not a parasite for us because it is not taking any, does not living on us. It is not taking any kind of a nutrition. It is just taking the blood from us. So याद रखना mosquito is not a parasite. एक लाइन दी है बायो के एनसीईआरटी में बस इसलिए you should give a fast reading to this 4 chapters की वहाँ से कोई factual data unrelated facts जो आते हैं that are there. बाकी म्यूटेशन क्या है, व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय द क्रिस्पर टेक्नोलॉजी जो डेवलप हुई है पिछले साल करंट अफेयर्स में, व्हाट इज उसका पार्ट, वो सब बायोटेक्नोलॉजी के चैप्टर्स में है. आई गेस आपका बायोटेक्नोलॉजी इज डन. सो साइंस एंड टेक इज डन बोथ द बैचेस. दो ही बैच है, तीनों बैच कौन? ये स्टूडेंट थोड़ी है. पंकज इज नॉट अ स्टूडेंट. मैम जब थक जाएगी तो पंकज पॉल साइंस शुरू करने वाला है. सो इट विल बी पंकज गुज्जर्स क्लासेस. So coming to this, now what we are going to do today is very very important from exam point of view, prelims के लिए. The 3 topics, that is what are the functions of an ecosystem. See, हर साल एक क्वेश्चन यहाँ से प्री में, फाइन. उसके बाद है एक्वाटिक इकोसिस्टम एंड उसमें रामसर कन्वेंशन. हर साल 2 क्वेश्चंस प्री में, हर साल 2 क्वेश्चंस प्री में और 1 क्वेश्चन मेंस में. सो देयर विल बी दैट इज दिस आर द फ्लो चार्ट. सो व्हाट आर द फंक्शंस ऑफ एन इकोसिस्टम. सबसे पहले व्हाट इज एन इकोसिस्टम. इकोसिस्टम इज अ रीजन जहां पे देयर इज अ इंटरेक्शन बिटवीन द बायोटिक एंड द अबायोटिक कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ एन इकोसिस्टम. Now what can be the biotic components of an ecosystem? What are the different biotic components? The different biotic components are herbivores, carnivores, omnivores and decomposers. That is autotrophs, the one who can make their own food. Then heterotrophs. Heterotrophs में primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers and decomposers. So decomposers are known as saprotrophs or saprophytes, which are divided into the detrivores and decomposers. Detrivores are the one who are going to eat the dead. Fine. So उसके बाद है क्या काम है इन सब का. दिस इज हाउ द एनर्जी बिकम्स ट्रांसफर्ड. मैं एक आपको पूरा एक समरी देता हूँ आज के क्लास का. सो दिस इज हाउ द एनर्जी बिकम्स ट्रांसफर्ड. दैट इज एनर्जी इज ट्रांसफर्ड इन द फॉर्म ऑफ 2 वेज. एक तो ग्रेजिंग फूड चेन में, ग्रेजिंग फूड चेन मीन्स जो हमारी फूड चेन है. ग्रेजिंग फूड चेन मीन्स जहाँ से वेयर देयर इज अ प्रोसेस ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस. सो फ्रॉम द प्रोसेस सन्स एनर्जी इज यूज्ड in the process of photosynthesis. It is used by the plants. Plants it goes to animals. Animals it goes to the higher living organisms. So इसमें prelims का question, how much amount of sun's energy is used? How much amount of sun's energy is used? 2%. How much amount of sun's energy is used? 10%, 2%. Fine, that is the cons, and 2% of what? 2% of PAR, that is the photosynthetically active radiation. Now what is this photosynthetically active radiation? Is it UV? Is it IR? Is it visible light? It is obviously a visible light. कभी कभी इतने simple questions कि कभी कभी difficult questions, कभी कभी simple questions, that is we generally tend to miss such some simple questions. So it is obviously the visible light. In this visible light, how much is the component amount of visible light out of the total sun's energy? It is 50%. 100% में से जो sun's energy is coming, उसमें से 50% is the visible light, and us visible light ka 2% is used. I am again now repeating my original question, how much amount of sun's energy is used for photosynthesis? 2% या 1%? 1%. It is the 2% of photosynthetically active radiation. It is 1% of the total energy because photosynthetically active radiation is 50%. Fine? ये ऐसे factual questions. कभी कभी conceptual questions that जो मैंने दिया है उसमें है that majority of the sun's energy is used by the plants for the process of photosynthesis. True or false? Majority of the sun's energy that comes is used by the plants for the process of photosynthesis. False. क्योंकि कितनी use हो रही है? Only 1%. Only 1% is being used. बाकी की is used for the process of respiration. Understanding? So कैसे घुमा के क्वेश्चंस पूछते हैं, फैक्ट वही है कि 1% ऑफ द सन्स एनर्जी इज यूज्ड, दे विल यूज द डिफरेंट थिंग्स. नाउ दिस सन्स एनर्जी इज यूज्ड इन द ग्रेजिंग फूड चेन एंड इन द डेट्रीवोरस फूड चेन. ग्रेजिंग फूड चेन में दैट इज हमारा. सो वॉट एवर द प्लांट्स आर मेकिंग, उसमें से ओनली 10% ऑफ द एनर्जी इज गोइंग टू द नेक्स्ट लेवल. Primary consumers, those who are eating the primary consumers, only 10% of the energy is going to the second level, that is the secondary consumers. So 100% energy अगर है primary consumers की तो सिर्फ 10% है secondary. 100% अगर है plants के पास तो only 10% is there for the primary consumers. 10% का 10% is there for the secondary consumers, that is 1%. 1% का 10% is there for the tertiary consumers, that is the 0.1%. अगर उसके ऊपर है तो energy is going to become 0.01%. अगर उसके ऊपर है तो energy is going to become 0.001%. So as a result of this, what we can see is food chain is not infinite because the energy is going to reduce. Fine. So as we go up, the energy is going to reduce, therefore food chain is limited in quantity or limited in number. So कितने ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 4 या 5 लेवल है फूड चेन में. अब 4 है, 5 है, 6 है, 7 है, डिपेंड्स अपॉन विच इकोसिस्टम यू आर. Grazing food chain is there in the land ecosystem, is there in the aquatic ecosystem. In the aquatic ecosystem, rather than 10%, 15% of energy is transferred. Why? Because in the aquatic ecosystem, the loss of heat is less as compared to the terrestrial ecosystem. Why the loss of heat is less in the aquatic ecosystem? Because in the aquatic ecosystem, they don't use the energy for locomotion like we use. They don't require that much energy for respiration like we use, because वहाँ पे oxygen is dissolved in the water and most of the oxygen goes into their skins through the gills. So कभी कभी वो बायो का क्वेश्चन बन जाता है. Fish generally breathe through what? Gills, and also it goes through the skin. So उसमें what we see prelims का fact is थोड़ा longer food chain is possible. So in the terrestrial ecosystem, मतलब land ecosystem में in the grazing food chain 4 to 5 levels are possible, वहाँ पे 7 to 8 levels are possible. बस ये फर्क है. कभी कभी conceptual question इसमें, which food chain is more efficient? Grazing terrestrial food chain या grazing aquatic food chain? Grazing aquatic food chain, because 6 to 7 levels are possible. 6 to 7 levels are possible. Understanding? एक दूसरा food chain है जहाँ से most of the energy runs more than the grazing food chain, and that is the detrivorous food chain. That is, if the plants die, they become a part of detrivorous, humus. Animals die, they become the part of detrivorous, etc. So as a result of this, वहाँ पे the animals were there, the animals which are there, microorganisms will start eating, earthworm will start eating, उसको फिर खाएंगे birds, उसको फिर खाएगा vulture, etc. That is what is the detrivorous food chain. And वहाँ पे ज़्यादा energy जाती है because the 10% rule does not exactly apply there. So आपको याद होना चाहिए for prelims the small facts, because generally we miss this facts from the books. Okay, which is the major source of energy in the terrestrial ecosystem, whether it is the grazing food chain or whether it is the detrivorous food chain. So the answer is detrivorous food chain, because most of the energy is going through that. हर चीज मरती है एंड वो सड़ती है, वो सड़ाता कौन है? डिकम्पोजर्स। उसको खाते कौन है? डेट्रीवर्स। सो बिकॉज प्राइमरी कंज्यूमर हो इट डाइज, सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर हो इट डाइज, tertiary consumer it dies. So you can see inputs are more in the detrivorous food chain, and therefore the detrivorous food chain will get more energy. More energy will flow through the detrivorous food chain as compared to the grazing food chain. Fine, यहाँ तक हो गया. Then there are easy concepts of food chain, food web and ecological pyramids. Ecological pyramids, कोई भी pyramid, जैसे we saw the population pyramid, number of the people in XYZ range is the horizontal area, what is known as a bar. Fine, horizontal is number, vertical is the height. Now kitna hai? So even in the ecological pyramids the number or the base ज़्यादा है तो मतलब number of producers ज़्यादा है. If the base is wide तो इसका मतलब number of producers is greater. If the top is tapering छोटा, that means the consumers या top level consumers are less. अब ecological pyramid can be of numbers, can be of biomass, can be of energy. यहाँ से questions आना बंद हो गए हैं. So we are not going to spend much time on this, but we never know कि question एक हाथ जो आता है. So there is one question here, that is which pyramid is the inverted pyramid, which pyramid is the upright pyramid. Not much time on this. So there are certain pyramids which are both inverted and upright. There is only one pyramid which is totally upright, and that pyramid is the pyramid of the energy. As we do the pyramid of energy, rather than the pyramid of energy, we will spend time on bioaccumulation, biomagnification, etc. and uske upar Stockholm Convention and whatever the current issue. So what are the current issue? Current issue, when I say, it does not mean last year का ही issue जून से, it means last 2 years के issues. जो पिछले साल नहीं आए questions, they become the current issues. For example, microbeads जो पिछले साल question था, it was not actually current issue. That was in current in 2017. But पिछले साल directly question आया microbeads. Similarly, sulfate aerosols in the sky. It was a direct current based question. So it can come from anything. What stubble burning से क्या होता है? It was a current based question. वो आज भी current based question है. Fine. So gas hydrates, methane gas hydrates. वो question थोड़ा tough आया because the first two statements which came there were done in the class. The third statement was not done in the class. That is, methane gets converted into what? So that is how the questions will come. It will come from the methane cycle. So we are saying कि in the functions of ecosystem there are 3 important functions. That is the energy flow, nutrient cycling, and third function is ecological succession. Ecological succession. In the energy flow, we have the concepts of food chain and food web. In the energy flow, we have the concepts of ecological pyramids. In the nutrient cycling, there is a concept of every year one question from nutrient cycling. Gaseous cycle, and there is a concept of sedimentary cycle. बहुत ही सिंपल क्वेश्चन आता है फ्रॉम दिस रीजन. इकोलॉजिकल पिरामिड्स. Gaseous cycle because वो एटमॉस्फेयर से है, therefore it is known as an gaseous cycle. And this gaseous cycle is divided into carbon cycle. So पिछले साल का मीथेन का क्वेश्चन can be an example of an carbon cycle. नाइट्रोजन cycle, ऑक्सीजन cycle भी है but that is not important, and hydrological cycle. While the sedimentary cycle is of two types. Sulfur cycle and phosphorus cycle. Sulfur cycle and the phosphorus cycle. Why the name sedimentary cycle? Because this originates from the rocks. And why the name gaseous cycle? Because this comes from the atmosphere. See, so see, last to last year question, that sulfur cycle, rocks have no role in the sulfur cycle. इतने आसान questions आते हैं. So rocks, if you remember that sulfur cycle is a sedimentary cycle, that means that statement is wrong, that rocks have no role in the sedimentary cycle. And then ecological succession का generally concept आता है, या there can be an example. So what can be the example of last year's question in the ecological succession? Example, which national park is exactly in the alpine? That is an ecological succession का application. Or identify the national park in India that have a succession of vegetation from tropical to tundra. That is Namdapha. That is a example of an ecological succession. Fine. Or why the succession does not take place in the grasslands? What are the limiting factors for the ecological succession? These are the kinds of the question that will come from the ecological succession. That is, ecological succession may, rather than the concepts, they ask the totally applied part here. Now once you do this, once you understand this, choice is yours कि शंकर IAS में से ये पढ़ना है या नहीं. If you think, give it a very fast reading, but ये शंकर IAS में है around 60-70 pages, which is not required. जितना, and उसमें से सिर्फ आपको concepts मिलेंगे, you will not get the examples of that. But अगर आपको लगता है कि you should read it once, you can read through the chapter on the Shankar IAS, this thing. Functions of an ecosystem. So the functions of an ecosystem, remember, are not giving us food. That is the importance of an ecosystem. There are three functions of an ecosystem, that is the energy flow, nutrient cycling and ecological succession. Fine. So when clear? So when we do the ecosystem, ecosystem is what? It is an interaction between biotic and abiotic components. It is an interaction between the biotic and the abiotic components. और जो यूपीएससी ने पूछा था, it is an interaction of living organisms with abiotic component is surrounding environment. So same like how our surrounding environment, nurture versus nature. Fine. So environment plays the important role of nurture. So nurture कि आसपास क्या है आपके, जो आपके आसपास है, it is going to affect you. So similarly, what is there in the surroundings, environment, is going to affect you. So what comes in the environment, what will come in the environment, maybe climate will come in this subject. वैसे तो everything comes in the environment, that is your friends, etc., all are an example of the environment. But in this subject, what will come in the environment is that the factors, that is the sunlight, water, etc., soil, etc., edaphic factors, etc., all will come. अब there is a school of controversy जो हम optional में पढ़ते हैं, यहाँ नहीं पढ़ते, कि environment degradation जब हम कह रहे, we are saying environmental degradation and climate change, it is not just the physical environment which is getting degraded, but even the social environment is getting degraded. Fine. So but that is out of the scope of this syllabus. So it is all the social environment and the physical environment. So hamesha environment means all the surroundings. So what are the important abiotic factors in the environment? The important abiotic factors are sunlight, the most important abiotic factor is sunlight. Can I say the sunlight is the only source of energy into the organisms in the ecosystem, or should I say is the most important source of energy? Most important. Why not the only source of energy? Because there are certain animals which we have just seen in the summary, known as saprophytes or known as detrivores. They do not derive the energy from the sun. We are deriving the energy by eating the organisms. Organisms are eating the plants, but dead and decomposed organic matter के लिए sunlight जरूरी नहीं है. Anaerobic bacteria के लिए which produce methane, sunlight जरूरी नहीं है. Understanding? And third, chemosynthetic bacteria के लिए sunlight जरूरी नहीं है. So there are certain bacteria which are known as chemosynthetic, which will be doing this, whatever the chemical reactions हो रहा है, only in the presence of certain chemicals, and they are not there in the sunlight. So where are these chemosynthetic bacteria? These are the chemosynthetic bacteria which live on the volcanic vents, which live inside the geysers, which live even in the stratosphere. Fine. So that is, they are the bacteria which can survive the temperatures of 6000 7000 degrees Celsius. Understanding? They will be there in the lava. उनके लिए sunlight जरूरी नहीं है. So याद रखना, sunlight is the most important source of energy. अब any of this biotic, abiotic component, if it is available in limited quantity, any of this, whether it is the sunlight, whether it is the water, whether it is this thing, if it is available in the limited quantity, we will call this as a limiting factor. And the limiting factor will impact how the organisms will grow in the environment. Now, is the sunlight a limiting factor at certain places in the world? Yes. Where the sunlight is the limiting factor at certain places, maybe in the polar regions, the sunlight is limiting factor. On the terrestrial ecosystem and in the aquatic ecosystem, the sunlight is a limiting factor after the depth of 200 meters or photic zone, or in the aphotic zone. Now what is the aphotic zone? Geography में हम ऊपर से करते हैं, that is, it is the depth of 200 meters. Environment ecology में you have to be very specific, so again from the prelims point of view, that of the aphotic zone is zone where less than 1% of the sunlight is available. Understanding? 1% of the incident solar radiation is available. उसके बाद life क्या होगी? नहीं होगी या कम होगी? कम होगी. That is again हमेशा याद रखना, only वाला statements are wrong in this subject except for exceptions है कुछ. Exceptions था that the Asiatic lion is found only in India. Fine, that was right. But rhino is found only in India, वो भी wrong था. अब why this question came? Rhino is found only in India, because March 2018 में there was Rhino Declaration, which is also known as New Delhi Declaration on Rhinos, March में. And this New Delhi Declaration on Rhinos was signed by the countries in which there is one horned rhino, that is India, Nepal and Bhutan. और यूपीएससी ने क्वेश्चन कैसे पूछा, वन हॉर्न राइनो इज फाउंड ओनली इन इंडिया। अंडरस्टैंडिंग द व्हाट हैपेंस, आप रट लेते हो करंट अफेयर्स को कि ये कंट्रीज ने साइन किया, बट यू डोंट अप्लाई दैट इन द एग्जामिनेशन। Fine. Why will Nepal and Bhutan sign one-horned rhino का declaration if there are no rhinos in this region? Understand? किया होगा rhino declaration, New Delhi declaration. So this is how the application based questions आ रहे हैं आजकल यूपीएससी में, and जहाँ application based आते हैं then it becomes difficult for us to remember. Fine. So sunlight is a limiting factor in two things, that is in the polar regions and in the deep oceans or below. But current क्या है? Sunlight also becomes a limiting factor due to plastic pollution. Due to plastic pollution or due to any kind of aquatic pollution, because the sunlight cannot reach the ground or below the water. As the sunlight does not reach below the water, photosynthesis stops in the water body, because sunlight is required for the process of photosynthesis. As the photosynthesis stops in the water body, therefore the organisms will start dying. मतलब सबसे पहले the plants will start dying, and उसके बाद the fishes that are dependent on the plants etc will start dying. As the organisms will start dying, whatever is present in their body, for example the most important is oxygen, they will start giving out so what we take in oxygen, what we give out is carbon dioxide. So large amount of carbon dioxide, nitrogen is given out, but higher organisms require oxygen for the respiration. But because of the lack of sunlight, that area becomes less oxygen. Why? Because carbon dioxide is given out. Carbon dioxide is given out. As the area becomes less in oxygen, so there starts death and decomposition. Due to death and decomposition, or ज़्यादा carbon dioxide is given out. And then when the oxygen content reduces, a bacteria known as Clostridium comes in that region. And this bacteria known as Clostridium then gives out toxins, and these toxins then kill the animals in the oceans. So oceans are becoming biological deserts. कहाँ पे है ये garbage patch? This garbage patch is present in the Pacific, in the Atlantic, but ocean currents याद करो. This garbage patch is present in the regions. If this is the warm ocean current, if this is the cold ocean current, this is the equatorial current, तो यहाँ से ऐसे ocean water घूम रहा है, but बीच में कुछ नहीं घूम रहा है, and this is the region जहाँ पे the garbage patch is there. So application based question, the garbage patches or the biological deserts in the oceans are present where ocean gyre circulation is not present, or where the ocean gyre or the ocean currents do not go, or in the center of the ocean currents. True or false? True. Fine. Ocean currents ऐसे side से जा रहे हैं, but कचरा हिल नहीं रहा है. Had this been here, then this would have gone to the shore and we would have cleaned it, but it is there in the middle of the oceans. Fine. This is one example. Second, Clostridium का another example is क्यों न्यूज में था एवियन बॉटुलिज्म? Avian botulism was in the news because it killed around 10,000 birds, migratory birds in Sambar Lake, in the Sambar Lake region. What is this avian botulism? Avian botulism is a disease, bacterial disease that is generally caused by Clostridium. कहाँ पे आया Clostridium? We have seen. कहाँ पे आया? जहाँ पे there is lack of oxygen. Avian botulism. And because of the avian botulism, most of the birds, 10,000 birds around the Sambar Lake region died. Why it is known as botulism? Because यहाँ पे the birds will, उनमें weakness आ जाता है. Their wings, they cannot lift their wings. They cannot fly. They cannot walk. उनका head starts drooping, and this is what is known as an avian botulism. अब पेपर में आता है हिंदू में that avian botulism से ज़्यादा it is the fencing around the lakes which has caused the death. That is, वहाँ पे तार लगी थी, there was a fencing around the death that has caused the death. So that is again an half news. Why it is an half news? Because had the birds have the ability to fly, they would have easily crossed the fencing. But because of the avian botulism, they cannot fly, they cannot walk, and therefore they start falling on the fences. And when they start falling on the fences, वो तारे उनके अंदर चली जाती है and they start dying. Understanding avian botulism. क्यों avian botulism? We don't have any idea why the avian botulism has been there. Third current based issue is with regard to this is global warming is increasing. Because of the global warming, oceans are becoming more and more warmer. As the oceans are becoming more and more warmer, there is less amount of dissolved oxygen in the warm oceans. Now why is this? Because in the warmer water body, हमेशा याद रखना द ऑक्सीजन इज द लिमिटिंग, ये हम सेकंड इसमें आएंगे, तो ये सनलाइट का नहीं है, ये सेकंड इसमें आएंगे, दैट ऑक्सीजन इज द नेक्स्ट अबायोटिक कंपोनेंट एंड ऑक्सीजन इज ऑलवेज अ लिमिटिंग फैक्टर बट इट इज रिलेटेड टू द सनलाइट ओनली. Oxygen is always a limiting factor in the warm ocean bodies. Why warm ocean bodies? Because as the temperature increases, there is a decomposition of the oxygen which is happening. Decomposition ho raha hai. One factor. Second, as the temperature increases, we have done in climate that the density decreases. As the density decreases, the spacing between the molecules decreases, and therefore the ability of the aquatic animals to take in oxygen decreases. Because in the water bodies, there is no 1% oxygen, there is no 21% oxygen. 21% is the average amount of oxygen that is present on the earth, which is obviously greater on the land as compared to the water bodies. Water bodies में सिर्फ 10% oxygen है, and as the temperature is increasing, that oxygen का concentration drops to 1%. And therefore, to avoid this, the aquatic organisms, especially fishes, are migrating towards the poles. Question directly आएगा that due to global warming, aquatic organisms are migrating towards the poles, especially the fishes are migrating towards the poles. True or false? True. Fine. ये सारी हिंदू की न्यूज़ है पिछले 6-7 महीने की, ये शायद पढ़ी भी होगी आपने. Fine. There is a poleward migration, the body का size is increasing of the aquatic animals, etc. So why it is here? Why it is increasing? Fine. Getting it? So एक static and उसके साथ साथ there you have to do the dynamic portion also.
So can we say that regions of high concentration of particulate matter, the sunlight becomes the limiting factor?
Yes, aerosols. Wherever there is particulate matter, wherever there is aerosol, the sunlight is a limiting factor.
Even on land?
Even on land. That is why more pollution in Delhi was associated with extremely cold temperatures in the month of December. Why? Because obviously winds were there, but due to more pollution, the sunlight was not reaching the ground, and as it was not reaching the ground, therefore the temperatures kept on dropping during the daytime. ये जो 15 दिन की extended cold थी, that is directly related to the pollution, because sunlight was not reaching the ground, and therefore there. Yes, this is a winter, peak winter season. January is always a peak winter season. January is always a peak winter season. Up to western disturbances are common, etc. They are coming. So the sun temperatures will go down. But कितना जा रहा है? 9 degrees, 11 degrees. उतना तो होना चाहिए in the winters. What was the temperature in the month of December? 3 degrees. Fine, 2 degrees. So that was an exception. That was because paper में आता है low stratospheric clouds, or you then wonder what is this low stratospheric clouds. Low stratus clouds. Low stratus clouds is nothing but the clouds that have been formed due to pollution. Stratus clouds means very low clouds. Yeah, ये आया था. So the Delhi का pollution is associated with the low stratus clouds. So this is there. Means what I will do is, once we will complete this part, I will share with you all the workbooks of QEP. Fine. फिर आप डिसाइड करना कि जब आपके बैच का QEP करना है तो आना है कि नहीं, बिकॉज मुझे नहीं लगता कि मार्च में और 4-5 घंटे आप वेस्ट करो, रादर दैन डू सेल्फ स्टडी. फाइन, डू द सेल्फ स्टडी, एंड बिकॉज एवरीथिंग हैज बीन देयर, एंड ये जो करंट है ये भी दिस आर देयर इंक्लूडेड इन द वर्कबुक्स. Yes. No, not fossils.
Because sir, you said there are some microorganisms.
Microorganisms are different, fossils are different.
So because they die, so.
They will not die, they will survive. Fossils is when they die.
So sir, they will never die.
They will not die. Clear? So sunlight is a most important factor. So I'll write here that the first point here is it is the most important factor because it is major source of energy. Major source of energy, not the only source of energy, because it is the major source of energy, not the only source of energy. ये भी याद रखना, major source of energy. Second, 50% of insolation or sunlight is photosynthetically active radiation. That is PAR. Range क्या है इसका? To 700 nanometers, 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers. And 2% of PAR, that means याद रखना 1% of sunlight is used for photosynthesis. Is used for photosynthesis. So major amount of sunlight is used by the plants for what activity other than the photosynthesis? What is the other activity? Respiration. Locomotion करते हैं plants? No. हम use करते हैं energy for locomotion, digestion, respiration, and so plants use it for photosynthesis, respiration and digestion, but photosynthesis is very less. Majority of the amount of sunlight is used by the process of respiration. Fine? Can I say photosynthesis is nothing but carbon fixation? That is, the atmospheric carbon dioxide is taken and fixed into the ground. It is the carbon fixation. It is the process of carbon fixation. जिसका byproduct is oxygen. जिसका byproduct is oxygen. Third, is sunlight as limiting factor. I am giving you only points. Is it fine? Yeah, you want elaborate description? ये ठीक है ना? Points समझ में आ रहा है? Limiting factor means it is available in the limited quantity. कहाँ पे? Natural. पहले हम natural देखेंगे. In the terrestrial ecosystem. In the polar regions. In the polar regions. And in the second, देखो, this is, सब पढ़ा है आपने, सिर्फ लैंग्वेज चेंज हो जाती है. At the ground. Why at the ground? Because of dense canopy. Therefore, application is undergrowth is sparse or absent. Can I continue? पोलर रीजन्स में एडेप्टेशंस. Adaptations. First, very high amount of body fat. So, what is the body temperature of the polar bear? Body temperature of कितना है polar regions में surrounding temperature? -30, -40 degree Celsius. What is the body temperature of the polar bear? 30 degree Celsius. 30 degree Celsius. क्यों? This is the adaptation. High amount of body fat. Polar bear का body temperature, penguin का body temperature. Penguin is also this thing. So penguin will also have this high amount of body fat. कोई भी polar regions में and organisms will having high amount of body fat, so that it can serve as a source of heat, fuel. Fat is a source of energy. Yes. घी क्या है? फैट ही है. ऑयल क्या है? फैट ही है. एक ज्योग्राफिकल इश्यू जो चल रहा है इस पाम ऑयल, याद रखना. सो इंडिया इज द लार्जेस्ट इंपोर्टर ऑफ द पाम ऑयल. फाइन. सेकेंडली, हु इज द लार्जेस्ट प्रोड्यूसर ऑफ द पाम ऑयल? इंडोनेशिया. इंडोनेशिया is the largest producer. Malaysia is our largest supplier. It is the second largest producer. And क्यों we import the palm oil to in such an high extent? घर में यूज होता है पाम ऑयल? बहुत कम आजकल लोग रह रहे. बट चिप्स, लेज से ये सारे चिप्स पाम ऑयल में बनाए हैं, याद रखना. So ये सारे चिप्स है पाम ऑयल में. प्लस इट इज यूज्ड इन द cosmetic industry. So it is used for the industrial purpose. Fine. Why it is used for the industrial purpose? This is what is important. It is used for the industrial purpose because palm oil, ये generally हमारा missing रहेगा. Palm oil has the highest yield out of all the other oil seeds या oil products. Whether it is soybean, whether it is sunflower, whether it is groundnut, whether it is तिल, उससे 8 to 9 times ज़्यादा yield है palm oil का. So palm oil का एक fact याद रखना, that it has the highest yield. Is it good or bad? वैसे it is bad. Yes. Fine, have done this. Now remember, this second is what is known as Allen's rule. So we have done Gauss's principle yesterday. Now this is the second, that is Allen's rule. सब ये NCERT में, ये शंकर में नहीं मिलेगा आपको. That is why sometimes these questions you find it difficult. Allen's rule. Allen's rule, which states that animals adapted to the cold climatic conditions. Animals adapted to the cold climatic conditions have shorter limbs and body appendages shorter limbs and the body appendages as compared to animals living in warm climatic conditions, as compared to the animals living in warm climatic conditions. Fine. So polar bear, fine, penguin, etc. You got tail meaning, and you see limbs, etc. to keep themselves cold. This is what is the adaptation. So Allen's rules talks about the adaptations in the animals as per the climate and उनका body का parts. And why presence of fur? Because wool is a bad conductor of electricity. Wool is the bad conductor of electricity. Fine. So that regarding the wool, which is the largest wool producing state of India? Kashmir, Punjab, Karnataka, Rajasthan. याद रखना, Rajasthan is the largest wool producing state in India. एंड सेकंड नंबर पे शॉक लगेगा आपको, कर्नाटका. एंड उसके बाद है जम्मू एंड कश्मीर. एंड वुलन टेक्सटाइल में पंजाब नंबर 1 है. वुलन टेक्सटाइल में पंजाब नंबर 1. एंड सेकंड नंबर पे वुलन टेक्सटाइल में महाराष्ट्र, वुलन टेक्सटाइल में पंजाब एंड महाराष्ट्र। सी इतना सिंपल याद रखना कि जो जितना भी वॉट एवर यू बाय एज थर्मल्स, दे जनरली आर मेड इन महाराष्ट्र. What you buy as sweaters are generally made in Punjab. Indian wool is a high grade wool, true or false? High quality wool India में. माइक नहीं ऑन था सर. जो ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स हैं, it is a limiting factor after depth of 200 meters, right? जिससे we divide the world into, we divide this into photic और euphotic. याद रखना euphotic and photic is same and aphotic zone. Divide it into photic and aphotic zone. So obviously the biodiversity will be less where in the aphotic zone. So photic zone is the zone of photosynthesis. It is the zone of photosynthesis and therefore high amount of biodiversity. Fine, very easy. यहाँ तक तो कुछ नहीं. Now see, in the aquatic ecosystem, the amount of sunlight determines the amount of dissolved oxygen. Right or wrong? Fine, because जितना ज़्यादा sunlight है उतना there will be more photosynthesis. The amount of sunlight will determine the amount of dissolved oxygen. Next is, but human impact. Two things are there. Pollution plus eutrophication. These two are two different things. Pollution and eutrophication is reducing the sunlight and therefore increasing the demand of oxygen. Increasing the demand of oxygen. Sunlight will determine the rate of photosynthesis. If there is less photosynthesis, there is less oxygen. There is only one way of producing oxygen in the water bodies, that is the photosynthesis. Little amount of oxygen will go through air-water interface, but mostly oxygen has to be present in the water bodies. How the water bodies में oxygen is produced? By the process of photosynthesis. What is required for photosynthesis is sunlight. Understanding? See, the amount of oxygen in the water bodies will go by two things. One is air water interface, मतलब जो हवा को water touch करेगा उससे थोड़ा थोड़ा oxygen dissolved होते जाएगा. But it is not that important factor. What is most important factor is how much amount of oxygen is produced inside the water bodies through the process of photosynthesis. So our reduction in sunlight or due to pollution, eutrophication increases the demand of oxygen, which is measured in terms of which is known as BOD or chemical oxygen demand. नहीं, COD. It is not same. Biological oxygen demand and the chemical oxygen demand. What is biological oxygen demand? For what process? नहीं. See, the demand कितना ऑक्सीजन, ऑक्सीजन कम है तो ऑक्सीजन का डिमांड बढ़ गया. अब द ऑक्सीजन का डिमांड बढ़ गया फॉर द ऑर्गेनिक प्रोसेसेस, कोई भी ऑर्गेनिक प्रोसेसेस, इट इज नोन एज बायोलॉजिकल ऑक्सीजन डिमांड. And even after, if there is no life present in the water body, there is oxygen required for certain bacteria to decompose. That is inorganic processes. That is what is known as a chemical oxygen demand. लिखो मत, हम अलग से लिखेंगे इसको BOCD. But biological oxygen demand and chemical oxygen demand, can I say, determines the purity of the water bodies? If there is a high BOD and COD, and कभी कभी ये एक ही word आता है, biochemical oxygen demand. Fine, this is always combined as a biochemical oxygen demand. If there is high BOD and COD, means water is extremely pure? No. So BOD and COD is used to determine the pollution in the water body, not the purity of water bodies. याद रखना. Higher the BOD and COD, higher is the amount of pollution. Demand ज़्यादा है ऑक्सीजन की. कब डिमांड ज़्यादा होगी ऑक्सीजन की? In this room, जब ऑक्सीजन कम होगा. Fine? जब ऑक्सीजन कम होगा. Fine? अब देखो, something you have to understand from the current based. You have read a news that in Nepal some Indian tourists died. That is the entire family. क्यों? हाँ, उसका मतलब लैक ऑफ ऑक्सीजन, सफोकेशन से मर गए. क्यों सफोकेशन से मर गए? बिकॉज हीटर जला के they सो गए विदाउट ओपनिंग अ रूम. सो व्हेन यू आर यूजिंग अ हीटर, इट इज हीटिंग समथिंग, ऑक्सीडेशन हो रहा है, कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड आ रहा है रूम में. रिमेंबर हमने वॉल्केनोज में किया था, एनीथिंग दैट बर्न्स विल गिव आउट कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड. सो द हीटर इज ऑल्सो गिविंग कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड. एंड हमने तभी भी लिखा था कि द ऑक्सीजन बाइंडिंग कैपेसिटी ऑफ द ब्लड इज लेस देन दैट ऑफ कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड. सो कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड विल डिस्प्लेस द ऑक्सीजन फ्रॉम द ब्लड, रिजल्टिंग इनटू सफोकेशन एंड डेथ. Fine. So you hear these cases. They stay in the car, AC switch off हो गया, child remained in the car, parents went to shopping and the child has died due to suffocation. Why? Or the same thing कि हीटर चला के बिना खिड़की खोले सो गए and suffocation. So this is what you have to remember कि anything when it burns, it gives out the carbon monoxide. It decreases the amount of oxygen. Fine. Eutrophication is something different. I'll come to that. वही बाइंडिंग कैपेसिटी as compared to oxygen, to hemoglobin binding capacity. Yay. We are coming to that. Causing dead zones in the oceans. या जिनको कहा जाता है, even remember the other words. Biological deserts. Desert means where nothing grows. So biological desert means where there is no life. The biological deserts. Why? Understand the process first. Amount of pollution, especially plastic, non-biodegradable, etc., is blocking the amount of sunlight. Because it is blocking the amount of sunlight, there is no photosynthesis. Because there is no photosynthesis, therefore plants die, affects food chain, animals, कौन सा मरीन एनिमल्स ओनली. लैंड पे इतना फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा बिकॉज लैंड में विंड आएगी, बारिश होगी, देयर विल बी मूवमेंट. Death of plants and animals start releasing CO2, therefore BOD and COD will increase, resulting into hypoxic conditions, means lack of oxygen, and therefore creating dead zones. नहीं. Can I continue? So what are dead zones? Dead zones are, याद रखना, oxygen starved oceanic regions. Is there any dead zone current affairs में Indian Ocean में? So अब मैं जाऊं इस पे. Fine. ये जो डायग्राम है, दिस इज नॉट फॉर व्हाट वी हैव डन. दिस इज द डायग्राम फॉर यूट्रोफिकेशन. यूट्रोफिकेशन also results into the dead zone, but oxygen deprived water conditions, and therefore creating the dead zones in the oceans. The biggest dead zone in the ocean is in the Pacific Ocean region. You can see the changes in the color of the oceans. Gulf of Mexico, कितना ज़्यादा pollution है, where the two ocean currents are meeting in the Gulf of Mexico region. chalo you keep on writing. The recent dead zone in Indian Ocean, recent dead zone in the oceans in Indian Ocean is near the Arabian Sea, is near the Arabian Sea. And which is said to be the world's largest marine dead zone. World's largest marine dead zone. World's largest marine dead zone. ये है current affairs. जो आप कह रहे हो अंडमान बे ऑफ बंगाल, that is old now. Fine. This is the world's largest marine dead zone. This is the Persian Gulf region. ये है Gulf of Oman के पास. This is the world's largest marine dead zone. पैसिफिक ओशन का, ये इंडियन ओशन का अभी वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट है. पैसिफिक ओशन का उन्होंने ठीक किया. सबसे पहले जब क्वेश्चन आया था 2016 में, दैट वाज पैसिफिक ओशन डेड पैच व्हिच वाज द वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट. नाउ दिस इज नियर द गल्फ ऑफ ओमान. याद रखना, गल्फ ऑफ ओमान रीजन. यस यस यस. whatever is going to decrease the sunlight is going to result into dead zones. This is the dead zone which we are talking about. वैसे इंडिया में बहुत जगह है dead zone. This is one dead zone eutrophication से. This is another dead zone overfishing से. This is one more dead zone. This all the black spots are the dead zones in the oceans. This was the largest dead zone, but अब उससे भी बड़ा dead zone is near the Gulf of Oman region. No. Gulf of Oman. इतना ज़्यादा pollution है कि this is how the sea water is turning. Right? It is turning red in color. Dead zone in the oceans. So what can be this pollution? These pollutants can be first, oil spill, and second, more importantly, plastic. And third will be the sea accidents. And इसलिए sea cargo. Where are they located? They are mostly located no. Pollutant is something which is non-biodegradable. Ocean gyre is nothing but the ocean currents. central part of the ocean gyre circulation, because the central part is not affected by this circulation. Gulf Stream जा रहा है, यूके को हिट कर रहा है, लैब्राडोर करंट इज कमिंग एंड इट इज हिटिंग द अफ्रीकन कोस्ट. सेंट्रल पार्ट में कुछ नहीं है, सार्गासो सी के रीजन और सब में कुछ नहीं है, देयरफॉर दिस इज द ओशन गायर. कचरा साइड साइड में चला जाता है और फिर वो रिमूव नहीं होता, वो इकट्ठा होते रहता है. दैट इज व्हाट इज देयर. नहीं इमेजिन कर रहे हो. ओशन करंट, ओशन करंट, ओशन करंट. अब कोई भी पोल्यूटेंट जो बीच यहां पे है, इट विल बी टेकन अवे, बट यहां का पोल्यूटेंट इधर ही रहेगा. सी एक्सीडेंट तो कहीं पे भी हो सकता है इन द सी. ऑयल स्पिल कैन ऑकर एनीवेयर. प्लास्टिक्स यू थ्रो इट हियर, वो फ्लोट होते होते दे कम टू दिस रीजन. वंस दे कम टू दिस रीजन दे स्टार्ट गेटिंग accumulated. व्हाई दे स्टार्ट गेटिंग accumulated? बिकॉज दे आर नॉट रिमूव्ड. If there is plastic in that black line, it will be carried from USA to UK. Now, second is again not directly related to the ocean pollution, but a word which you should become familiar with. Have you heard about this plastic crust? What is that? This is the foot of the rocks. अब rocks के ऊपर ऐसे ऐसे permanent feature आ रहा है. So when this permanent feature, ऐसा लगता है it is a part of the rock only. Or take this an example. This is a permanent feature that has been formed on the rock. ऐसा लगता है it is a part of the rock, but it is not a rock. It is polythene जो आके आके over the period of time decompose हो गया and it has become the topmost part of the rock. This is what is known as a plastic crust. क्या है? पॉलीथीन. याद रखना, नॉर्मल प्लास्टिक नहीं. प्लास्टिक्स कैन बी पेट also, but this is specifically polythene. So plastic crust is the plastic pollution, which forms the outer layer, or crust of the rocks, mostly polythene, which is washed by the waves and tides from the oceans to the shores. Washed from the oceans and tides to the shores. Plastic crust or plastic pollution is giving rise to plastic glomerates. Is giving rise to plastic glomerates. क्या है plastic glomerates? They are the new rocks that are getting formed, but unfortunately of plastic waste. From our plastic waste. पूरा ये pollution है. This is all pollutant. It is not a natural rock. ये बहुत beautiful है. If you make a house out of it, toxins will be released in the house. If we grow anything here, toxins will be released in this thing. अब recently बॉम्बे में बहुत बड़ा स्कैंडल क्या पकड़ा गया था? Eggs of plastic. प्लास्टिक के eggs. मतलब eggs look entirely as if they are natural eggs. खाओगे तो फिर भी ऐसे लगेगा natural egg खा रहे हो. फिर बाद में पेट दर्द होगा. Because that is nothing but plastic. So when you burn that egg on this, फिर it starts melting like plastic, and then we realize that it is a plastic. Plastigomerate. So देखो क्वेश्चंस कैसे आएंगे. टर्म्स which was recently in the news is what? So plastic crust is the outer layering of the rocks, and plastigomerate is the new rock. These are two different things. Second abiotic factor is, so oxygen. Is the oxygen. इसमें से क्वेश्चंस नहीं, जितने क्वेश्चंस थे अभी हमने कर लिए. फाइन. द थर्ड abiotic factor is soil. Soil is an abiotic factor. Remember, sun is also an abiotic factor and soil is also a abiotic factor. कुछ अलग क्वेश्चन सॉइल पे नहीं, सॉइल डिग्रेडेशन और सब बाद में, तो देयर विल बी नो क्वेश्चन ऑन द सॉइल. द फोर्थ abiotic factor is in which one? Humidity. Now, humidity is a limiting factor. In deserts and grasslands. In both deserts and grasslands. This is a limiting factor in both the deserts and the grasslands. Fine. More importantly, because of bushfire, grasslands. Trees generally do not survive in the grassland regions. There are two reasons for this. One, less moisture or humidity, and second, याद रखना सरप्राइजिंग थिंग है, नेचुरल फॉरेस्ट फायर्स आर necessary condition for grasslands to survive. And no grasslands to survive. बस इतना याद रखो, grasslands to survive. That means if the region is of the grassland, so there is deciduous forest here, moist deciduous, then this region becomes a dry deciduous, then this region becomes a grasslands, and ultimately this region over the period of time will become desert. So due to the winds, trade winds are blowing this way. Due to the winds, most of the pollen grains from this regions will be deposited in the grasslands, and there is a chance that tree will come in this region. So कल ही हमने देखा, if the tree comes in this region, तो grasslands क्या होंगे, मर जाएंगे, because the trees are going to block the sunlight. अब the grasslands have adapted themselves in such a way कि during the every summer season, the grasslands will rub against themselves and start forest fires. And during the forest fires, the grasslands का seeds are such that they are fire resistant. मतलब the seeds are not going to die due to the forest fires. The seeds will resist the fire, they will be there, but because of this, जो आसपास के जितने भी पेड़ के जो seeds आए हैं, they will get destroyed. और जैसे ही बारिश आएगी, grasslands will come back to life again. So the seeds are there. So bushfire जो है, obviously it has become very intense, but it is a every year phenomenon. This is how the grasslands are going to survive. Otherwise grasslands world के खत्म हो जाएंगे. So this is their mechanism to survive and to kill the outside invader species, that is the trees. Trees का pollen grains. If there are no forest fires, then there will be no grasslands. Grasslands have dying back mechanism, reverse dying mechanism. Reverse dying mechanism means चाहे कितने भी साल बारिश मत आने दो, उनके seeds will survive. The seeds are drought resistant, the seeds are fire resistant. And इसीलिए you see on a barren land, जैसे ही बारिश होती है, दूसरे दिन grasses will come out. कहाँ से आएंगे? Because the seeds are already present there on the ground. Trees नहीं आएंगे इतने जल्दी. So this is the mechanism by which grassland will maintain उसका ecosystem. Now ecosystem means living organisms के बीच का interaction. So ecosystem means if the grasslands don't survive, there will be no cheetah. Fine? There will be no African elephant. There will be no lions. So in सबको चाहिए that grasslands to survive and for forest fires to take place. So this is how the forest fires will take place every year in the savanna grasslands of the world. Whether it is the savanna grasslands or whether it is the Australian bushfire. These are the regions of the savanna grasslands. So for trees in the grasslands, where the trees do not grow in the grasslands, because there are two limiting factors. What are the two limiting factors? Forest fires and humidity. aerosols in the atmosphere, and अभी वहाँ पे monsoons, so aerosols in the atmosphere, so forest fires के बाद floods आने के chances, clouds बनना आसान हो जाएगा. So ये भी आपने न्यूज़ में पढ़ा होगा कि fires are necessary in Australia. Fires are necessary in Australia, and there are certain birds which will not get any food unless there is a forest fire. There are certain birds, migratory birds, which will go to Australia waiting for the forest fires to occur. जैसे ही forest fires will occur, reptiles, insects will start running away from the fires, and that is the best time कि वो उनको खाएंगे. This is how the birds will go inside the forest fires and they will catch it, the reptiles, etc. Fine. So yes, जितना भी है, this is how the ecological balance is maintained. बट नेचर उतना ही फॉरेस्ट फायर देगा जितना इज नेसेसरी. हम क्या कर रहे हैं? वी आर मेकिंग दैट फॉरेस्ट फायर्स टू इंटेंस, एंड बाय दिस व्हाट वी आर डूइंग इज वी आर डूइंग एडेप्टेशन इन द स्पीसीज. अब जो स्पीसीज विच कुड सर्वाइव इन दैट रीजन, over the period उनका next generation will be more adapted to the droughts, more adapted to the climate change, more adapted to the heat. जो नहीं adapt कर पाए, they will get extinct. अब ऑस्ट्रेलिया इज नॉट अ प्लेस फॉर कैमल्स, बट ऑस्ट्रेलिया में दे टू ब्रिंग इन द कैमल्स. सो इन द एंड क्या करना पड़ा? पानी कम था तो उनको 10,000 कैमल्स मारने पड़े. व्हाट इज नोन एज कलिंग. सो व्हाट यू मीन बाय कलिंग? अगर ये ऐसे आता है तो कलिंग इज सिलेक्टिव किलिंग. कलिंग इज द सिलेक्टिव किलिंग. हम कर सकते हैं कलिंग, yes, but for that the species has to be declared vermin under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 in Schedule 5. Which species can be declared vermin? Any species that is not present in Schedule 1. Schedule 1 का species कभी आप vermin नहीं declare कर सकते हो, but other than that, all the species can be declared as a vermin. I'll come to this over the period of time. Current affairs है, Bihar has declared nilgai as a vermin, and therefore the killing of the vermin. So current affairs में है, Bihar has declared nilgai as a vermin. अब question ये आ सकता है, who declares the vermin? It is the state government which will send the proposal to the central government to be declared for vermin, and the central government is going to declare that animal as a vermin. State government नहीं declare कर सकता. अगर state government declare करता तो महाराष्ट्र would have declared tiger as a vermin. फिर वो controversy नहीं होती उस man eating tiger को मारने की. So vermin से related two things are in the news. That is why you should know vermin. Fine. Clear this? These are the living organisms. Biotic components, these are the living organisms. याद रखो अप्लाइड पार्ट जो मैंने नहीं लिखा है कि पोल्यूशन कॉजेस सनलाइट एज अ लिमिटिंग फैक्टर इवन ऑन द टेरेस्ट्रियल इकोसिस्टम. अगर ज्यादा एरोसोल्स है तो इट इज गोइंग टू लिमिट द सनलाइट. फाइन, इट विल कॉज द सनलाइट एज अ लिमिटिंग फैक्टर इवन इन द टेरेस्ट्रियल इकोसिस्टम. व्हाई? बिकॉज it will cause global cooling. हमने बार बार किया ये क्लाइमेटोलॉजी में, इसलिए आई एम नॉट मेकिंग यू राइट पोल्यूशन एंड ग्लोबल कूलिंग. बायोटिक कंपोनेंट्स are arranged in trophic levels. In the trophic levels. What is a trophic level? Trophic level is the position of an organism in food chain. In the food chain. It is the position of an organism in the food chain. And based on this, we have self-nourishing. Then we have primary consumers. We have the secondary consumers. We have the tertiary consumers. And this all are known as heterotrophs. Heterotrophs, that is the other nourishing. We become the food for saprotrophs. Saprotrophs. After the death of anything, we become the part of the saprotrophs. So who are the saprotrophs? They are the organisms. Is the red color visible? That get nourishment from decaying organic matter. Question आता है decaying organic and inorganic matter? No, decaying only organic matter. Over the period of time, this will keep on changing because abhi pata chala hai there are certain bacteria which can eat plastics. They will get nourishment even from plastics. Now, the second thing that has come in the current affairs is bioplastics. So, what are bioplastics? Bioplastics. कैसे कैसे करोगे प्लास्टिक को डिकम्पोज? हाउ इज प्लास्टिक मेड? Plastic is outcome of an petrochemical industry which is non-decomposable. Now we can क्या होता है प्लास्टिक? प्लास्टिक मतलब बेसिकली व्हाट इज प्लास्टिक? जिसकी स्ट्रेंथ बहुत ज्यादा है, जिसका वेट बहुत कम है and which is highly flexible. Fine. So current affairs, a girl, 23-year-old girl who was working in the California University goes on vacation. नहीं cactus से तो पिछला है. Again why it is in the news is that she goes on a vacation and she sees dead fishes. उनका scales निकालती है because she is a biotechnology की student. उनका scales निकालती है and she realizes कि scales में इतनी ताकत है कि this can replace the traditional plastic. वो fishes को ले आती है अपनी lab में in California and वहाँ से she makes one of the strongest bioplastic which is even stronger than polythene. एक महीने पहले की न्यूज़ है. This is what is the bioplastic that is from the fish. So fish का dead skins. So what is a bioplastic? Bioplastic is a kind of an plastic that is made from organic matter. And क्या क्या बन सकता है bioplastic के लिए? Molasses, that is the outcome of sugarcane industry. Vegetable oil से bioplastic बनता है. Sunflower oil से bioplastic बनता है. Agricultural waste से bioplastic बनता है. And current affairs, that is the fish के स्केल्स और स्किन से बायोप्लास्टिक बनता है. फाइन. सो दे कैन आस्क यू व्हाट इज, वी विल नॉट, ये सब मैं पीपीटी के थ्रू बताऊंगा, सो नो नीड ऑफ राइटिंग. सो व्हाट आर द सोर्सेस ऑफ द बायोप्लास्टिक, गेटिंग इट? सो दे कैन आस्क यू व्हाट आर द डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ द सोर्सेस ऑफ द बायोप्लास्टिक. सिर्फ इतना याद रखना, फिश की डेड स्किन, एनीथिंग दैट इज ऑर्गेनिक इज अ बायोप्लास्टिक. Now why it becomes such a big news when there was already a bioplastic in the world? Because traditional bioplastic is not environment friendly. याद रखना, ट्रेडिशनल बायोप्लास्टिक जो हम अभी तक यूज कर रहे हैं बायोप्लास्टिक के नाम पे, it is getting decomposed but at a slower rate. चलो एटलीस्ट डिकम्पोज हो रहा है, but it is also going to release toxic chemicals. but ये जो फिश का बायोप्लास्टिक है, it is totally biodegradable. Totally biodegradable, and traditional bioplastic is not totally biodegradable. So इतना याद रखो, bioplastic unlike the plastics are less harmful to the environment, not free from any environmental concerns. क्या है? सिर्फ they are less harmful to the environment. Getting it? So question ये आ सकता है prelims में कि bioplastics have no negative externalities or no negative outcomes on the environment. So what I always say is, कोई भी ऐसा drastic statement generally wrong होता है तो पहले सोचो उस पे. Bioplastics will also have negative externalities on the environment. Fine? And how is the energy transferred here? The energy is transferred from the lower to higher trophic level by 10% rule. So what is this 10% rule? Only the 10% of energy is transferred from the lower to higher trophic levels. Only 10%. मतलब if you are eating something here, you will get 10% of this energy. So यहाँ पे अगर 100 calories है, so you will get 10 calories. But इसके पास सिर्फ 10 calories है. And if you are eating something here, you will get just 1 calorie. And यहाँ पे 1 calorie है, so you will get just 0.1 calorie. So for being environment friendly, you should be veg or non-veg. आंसर 10% रूल में है. द मोर नियरर यू आर टू द लोअर ट्रॉफिक लेवल्स, उतना यू आर मोर एनवायरमेंट फ्रेंडली, उतना यू आर बेटर फॉर द प्लैनेट, उतना यू आर गोइंग टू ईट लेस फूड, उतना देयर विल बी लेस लॉस ऑफ फूड, उतना देयर विल बी फूड सिक्योरिटी इन द वर्ल्ड. फाइन. सो सबसे बड़ा मिसकंसेप्शन कि मैं नॉनवेज खाऊंगा, अगर मैं सब वेज खाने लग गया तो देयर विल बी नो क्रॉप्स लेफ्ट ऑन द वर्ल्ड, ये सबसे बड़ा मिसकंसेप्शन है. फाइन. सो द चिकन का पॉपुलेशन विल इंक्रीज टू सच एन एक्सटेंट कि चिकन्स विल रूल द वर्ल्ड, ऐसा नहीं है. सो द लोअर यू आर इन द ट्रॉफिक लेवल, you are going to eat less food. That is the less amount, less energy will be lost. So less food, you are more environment friendly. Higher you go to the trophic level, you are going to be more dangerous for the environment. Fine, more dangerous for the biodiversity. Fine, humans, not tigers. क्यों humans? Because we are not going to eat like tiger कि चिकन को पकड़ लिया, खा लिया, हम क्या करेंगे? हम उसको फ्राई करेंगे, हम उसको मसाला डालेंगे, we will preserve it, will make it more tasty. Understanding? So we are going to transport it. It all requires. So पकड़ के खाने के बाद, so you have to clean that. Water is required. You have to process that. Energy is required. Water is required. You have to cook that. Energy is required. Water is required. KFC. You are processing it more. So उसको और process करो, उसमें और बेसन लगाओ, उसमें और ये करो. Then sell it like what? What is that? Chicken wings. So it requires more and more energy, more and more processing, which will come from fat, which will come from trans fat, which will come from the processed food, and therefore you are more harmful to the environment. Understanding this? So कल अगर question आता है promotion of veg is environment friendly or against biodiversity? हमेशा it is environment friendly. Understanding? So उसमें still Indian is fine. Indian way of eating the non-veg is fine because we'll take it, we'll boil it, we'll put it this thing. We don't convert it into kebabs. We don't convert it into fries. We don't convert it into the sausages. We don't store it for years and then we sell it. Fine. So फिर भी Indian way is fine. इसलिए Indian way is fine. इसलिए Indians are the least to be affected by ये जितने भी viruses आते हैं. In bird flu or swine flu हम ज़्यादा affect नहीं होते. ये कौन affect होगा? Those who are going to eat red meat and cold meat. हमारे इसमें we boil it to such an extent that there is no virus left. Fine. So इसलिए मैं कहता हूँ एग्जाम से पहले अगर कुछ खाना है बाहर का, don't eat burger. Samosa is the safe. Why? Because it is fried at 100 plus degrees Celsius. It will kill everything. That is, जो भी pathogen है, it is going to kill it. जो भी Indian snack है, which is boiled, it is going to kill it. The only thing is make sure that वो दुकान चलता है, नहीं तो सब्जी पुरानी होगी. Fine. So otherwise you are not going to face any problem. But burger खाओगे, there is a chance you are going to face the food poisoning. So points to remember here. Points to remember in this is first point. The energy transfer in the ecosystem. The energy transfer in the ecosystem is thus inefficient. The energy transfer in the ecosystem is thus inefficient. Is thus inefficient. And hence, pyramid of energy is always upright. Pyramid of energy is always upright. Pyramid of energy is always upright. हमेशा ऐसा ही होगा. It will not be inverted. Inverted are these pyramids. This is an example of an upright pyramid. Second, so how is the energy transfer in the ecosystem? Inefficient. याद रखना, it is highly inefficient. एक तो हम पूरी सन में से एक ही 1% एनर्जी ले रहे हैं, उससे खाना बना रहे हैं, उसका ही 10% ऊपर जा रहा है. Fine. Second is, as the energy decreases from lower to higher trophic levels, as the energy decreases from lower to higher trophic levels, therefore maximum 4 to 5 trophic levels are possible. Maximum 4 to 5 trophic levels are possible. Four to 5 trophic levels are possible. Aquatic ecosystem का अलग से करेंगे, 6 to 7 है, but ऐसा नहीं कि infinite है. यहाँ पे 4 to 5, वहाँ पे 6 to 7 are possible with the number of organisms decreasing at each trophic level. With the number of organisms decreasing at each higher trophic level. Number of organisms decreasing at each higher trophic level. Trophic level में man को डालना मुश्किल है, याद रखना. Humans को डालना is मुश्किल because humans can be here, humans can be here. So we can say humans are omnivorous. So you can put it them anywhere, but omnivorous को यहाँ पे दिखाना is very difficult. We can put it in the secondary consumer. But omnivorous, if turtle is omnivorous only. ह्यूमन बींग्स का क्या है कि देर इज नो कैटेगरी कि दिस काइंड ऑफ द पीपल आर ओमिनिवरस, दिस काइंड ऑफ द पीपल आर हर्बिवरस, दिस काइंड ऑफ द पीपल आर कार्निवरस. ह्यूमंस कीप ऑन चेंजिंग एज पर डेज. फाइन, ओमिनिवरस, कार्निवरस. सो इसलिए ह्यूमन बींग्स ये एक नेगेटिव पार्ट है फूड चेन का, दैट इज इट डज नॉट रिप्रेजेंट द ह्यूमन बींग्स. Third, higher amount of food in the form of energy. Higher amount of food in the form of energy is required in the higher trophic levels. Is required in the higher trophic levels. Giving rise to the problems of bioaccumulation, bioconcentration, biomagnification. Fine. Bioaccumulation, bioconcentration, biomagnification. We'll do this. First, we'll write a small point regarding the saprotrophic food chain. Food chain originating from the dead and decomposed organic matter. Saprotrophic food chain. Food chain that is originating from dead and decomposed organic matter. Decomposed organic matter. Decomposed organic matter. It is not a part of a grazing food chain. It is not a part of a grazing food chain. It is not a part of grazing food chain. It consists of detrivores. It consists of detrivores and decomposers. It consists of detrivores and decomposers. Consist of detrivores and decomposers. Next, detrivore. Detrivore is one that eats the dead particles. Ones that eats the dead particles. Dead particles को हम कहते हैं detritus. It's the detrivore is one that eats the dead particles. That is the detritus. Example दो मुझे. Vulture भी आएगा. डॉग को इसमें नहीं डालेंगे बिकॉज डॉग विल ईट बोथ डेड एज वेल एज लिविंग पार्टिकल्स. Rats can also be there. चूहे. And the top level detrivore is vulture. Vulture in Hindi? गिद्ध. Is this a detrivore? Bat? No, it is not a detrivore. It is a top level predator. The only thing is to avoid the competition with the eagle, वो अपना time change कर देता है. वो रात में आता है, eagle दिन में आता है, because no two organisms can have same niche in a same habitat. Ecological habitat is the area, niche is उसका job. Bat का and eagle का job एक ही है. So no two different species can have the same niche in a same habitat. So they change the habitat. One comes during the daytime, the other comes during the night time. Yes, it is an example of resource partition. MacArthur का resource partition. Bat is a bird or a mammal? Mammal. An example जो हमें इंडिया में जो याद रहना चाहिए, फैक्चुअल डेटा कई अलग से नहीं पढ़ेंगे, इसलिए आई एम मेकिंग यू राइट हियर इज मुझे लगा दिस इज द bat which looks like a fox. Found in central India and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. It is known as Kabini. कबिनी रिवर है ये. कबिनी इज अ रिवर ट्रिब्यूटरी ऑफ कावेरी. कावेरी अन्नमलाई हिल्स के आसपास. मलाई मीन्स फॉरेस्ट. मलाई मीन्स फॉरेस्ट. अगस्त मलाई, अन्नमलाई हिल्स. Fine. एक point for prelims, one more. While decomposer is an organism, ब्रैकेट में बैक्टीरिया एंड फंगस. देखो डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन है. ऑर्गेनिज्म ब्रैकेट में बैक्टीरिया एंड फंगस, ब्रैकेट क्लोज्ड, that secretes enzymes to break down the dead organic matter, and to digest the waste. So, याद रखो फॉर प्रीलिम्स, डेट्रीवोर जो एक्चुअली खाना खाएगा, डेड ऑर्गेनिजम्स को खाएगा, एंड डिकम्पोजर जो केमिकली उसको ब्रेक डाउन करेगा. फाइन. Decomposers help in humification. See, geography में we study what is humus, यहाँ पे we study what is humification. Help in humification, which is the addition of dead dark organic matter to the soils. known as humus. Known as humus, which increases one acidic content of the soil. Organic matter is always acids. It will increase the organic. देखो सब आपके घर में हो रहा है ये. कचरा 4-5 दिन मत फेंको. It will become dark, blackish, wet. Humification हो रहा है उसमें by decomposers. उसके बाद it becomes slightly acidic. So it will help in increasing 3 things: fertility of the soil, acidic content of the soil, and questions, and the water retention capacity of the soil. Fine. Take out the questions. Question number 37. 43. क्या है इसका आंसर? डी. ग्रीन हाउस गैस एमिशंस मतलब विल infrared, photosynthesis, visible light. Fine. Infrared radiations. 37 का कोई डाउट इसमें? 43. अभी हमने डिस्कस किया था. ग्लोबल वार्मिंग, यस. फ्रैगमेंटेशन, यस. फ्रैगमेंटेशन वही कि एक फॉरेस्ट एक साइड रह जाता है, दूसरा फॉरेस्ट इज ऑन द अदर साइड, बीच में से रोड जा रहा है, कुछ जा रहा है. Solution: elephant corridors, tiger corridors. That is what is the fragmentation. It causes invasion of alien species. Yes. Promotion of veg. No. What is the trick there? वही जो normal thinking without अंडरस्टैंडिंग दिस गए कि हाँ वेज खाने से सारे क्रॉप्स डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाएंगे. सो यूपीएससी ने वो ऑप्शन भी दिया है आपको, सो दैट यू कैन मेक दैट सिली मिस्टेक. 1, 2, 3 and 4 भी है. आंसर इज 1, 2 and 3. ए. Some factual question is 51. स्टार्ट आउटेज मिलता है इंडिया में? यस, करंट अफेयर्स है. इट हैज बीन एडेड टू द साइट्स अपेंडिक्स 1. It has been added to the CITES Appendix 1, Star Tortoise. Star Tortoise is found in India, Pakistan and Sri Lanka only. याद रखना. And it has been added to the Appendix 1 of CITES. We'll do what is CITES later on. अपेंडिक्स 1 ऑफ साइट्स. दिस इज व्हाट इज द स्टार टॉर्टोइज. दूसरा क्या है? इंडिया, पाकिस्तान, श्रीलंका. मिलता है इंडिया में. व्हाट इज मॉनिटर लिजार्ड? कॉमन है. I don't know, I have not seen the movie तानाजी, but तानाजी की ओरिजिनल स्टोरी है मॉनिटर लिजार्ड को चिपका के दे क्लाइम द फोर्ट. Fine? So, yes. So it gets stuck. So how did that people climbed the fort? They took monitor lizards को उनको बांधा खुद को आर्मी ने, एंड जैसे मॉनिटर लिजार्ड ऊपर गए तो ऐसे इससे वैसे दे वेंट अप. So it is found in India very commonly. Fine? Monitor lizard, yes. ये भी current affairs में याद रखना. And spider monkey नहीं, it is found only in South America. Spider monkey is found only in South America. Why it is known as spider monkey? Because it keeps on doing antics like this. So generally you will see this monkey teasing this tigers or the panthers in the jungle, jaguars etc. वहाँ पे commonly है jaguar. So ये spider monkey की आदत है कि जहाँ पे jaguar है उसको जाके ऐसे मारेगा और फट से ऊपर जाएगा. It will make sure that jaguar is not there in the surrounding region. And इसको पकड़ना is very मुश्किल. So spider monkey is only in the South American region. Pygmy hawk तो इंडिया में है. Pygmy hawk, we have seen that. The smallest pig in India, northeast, Assam only in Assam. Kaziranga and Manas National Park. Kaziranga and Manas National Park. So pygmy hog is an endemic species to India. It is the smallest pig. It is endemic. It is found only in the Kaziranga and Assam. Sorry, Kaziranga. Pobitara, Kaziranga and Pobitara both are in Assam and Manas National Park. And spider monkey is not there in India. 54. C. Because of water and fire limits. चलो अगर मैं बताता भी नहीं तो how you should handle such kind of questions. चलो अभी तो मैंने I told you the answer is very direct, but this question should be handled by negation. Negation means cutting the other things which are not there. So in the grassland they are asking you trees do not replace the grasses as an part of ecological succession. So अगर मैं नहीं बताता फिर भी ecological succession आप पढ़ के जाओगे कि trees grasses के बाद trees आएंगे. So ऐसा क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? So limited sunlight and paucity of nutrients. नहीं, grasslands में तो बहुत ज़्यादा sunlight है. So that option goes. Fine. Insects and fungus ये तो हर जगह है. So that is not there. अब water limits तो पता ही है कि grasses में बारिश कम है. You don't know about fire, but चलो there is no other option. So fine, water limits and fire. You have to take some risk also in the examination. Question number 81. नामडाफा. क्वेश्चन नंबर 81 इज नामडाफा. इस साल फिर से यही क्वेश्चन आया, पर पूछा कौन सा नहीं है. फाइन. नामडाफा. Question number 123. Is C. What is the option answer C? Yes, pollution in the aquatic ecosystem. Clear with this? So ये ecosystem based सारे questions हमारे हो गए. We'll now I'll give you the second set. पर ये लाते रहना because इसमें climate change related questions है. Should I continue?